Welcome back to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network. We're talking about machine learning and artificial intelligence, deep learning, and we were just getting into priorities for the next 10 months. And Sri, I'm going to throw it over to you. Top priority for you for the next 10 to 12 months.
Look, thanks for the question. It's interesting. Our priority for the last 10 years is roughly the same priority for the next 10 months, which is
I like it.
We're obsessed with our customers being successful. AI has, as you know, has been promising to change the world for the Turing test is 1950s for hundreds of years. And co-creation with the customer has been the true way we have built real success. Customers are really good at their domain and they have the data. So working very closely with them to look at their problems and democratize those organizations across the whole organization. The way we've done that is with AI first app stores. Gil was mentioning about use case list and inventory of use cases. To organize them is the same way we organize our cell phones, is through app stores. And so our mission is to democratize AI one piece at a time, one microservice at a time, and create that middleware for AI. So there's a software way of transforming the planet of one agency at a time. Our best wins from commercial experiences, like we've transformed Kaiser Permanente or HCA or wins from United Health Group or Aetna, and take those and so the most other regulated industries like the banking industry. Every payment system across the planet uses H2O. And so we bring those wins from the commercial sector, where we are kind of the alpha, the number one default platform for AI, to the public sector. So we can truly make our federal agencies as world-class as their peers in the commercial world.
That is outstanding. I'd love to hear that. The focus for 10 months is the same thing you've been focusing on for 10 years. Gil, let's talk about top lessons learned. Number one lesson learned that you've been encountering that you'd like to share at VA.
Well, there are many lessons I think learned. I think one of the things is that, as we all know and have experienced, every organization has its own structure and process to implement new systems, right? And in the public sector, we really need to navigate several rules that place data privacy up front as a primary concern. And so, to get into, challenges, I think one of the challenges is updating the rules and creating a defined yet an agile infrastructure, right, to make the changes that we need as we progress forward and more deeply implement and integrate AI and machine learning. And so we're at the point where some of the old rules and old structures require updating, right? And so we can accommodate that power of that new technology to bring to the public sector and those that we serve. And so really now is that critical time to establish that feedback loop, right? So we can have an open, collaborative discussion and really get that input to move forward and then implement those insights into the processes day by day to enhance the work that we do and those that we serve.
Sure. Fascinating. Ramesh, how about at DIA? Top lesson learned that you've discovered?
There are multiple things, but the big one, I would say, I would echo what Sri was mentioning earlier, is the importance of culture and growth mindset. I mean, all these technologies are all good, but if the culture is not ready, we have some major challenges. From a technology standpoint, yes, we need to understand the platform architecture, importance of data fabrics, the where data comes from, what is going to be used for what, the use case-based scenarios, impact-based, outcomes-based model. How do you take something from an unclassified system all the way up to the TSSCI level and put it out with the ATO? So there are some specialized needs that we do where typical industry doesn't do. But the fundamental thing I would say is the importance of skills, talent, culture, and the growth mindset. Once we get that thing right, other things will happen.
Fantastic. Sri, top lesson learned that you've discovered in your vast history with the AI technology?
AI is you innovate or die, right? So AI is a fast-moving space. So innovation is continuously changing, and Ramesh touched on the topic of talent. How do we continue to acquire incredible talent, give them the freedom to innovate, and take those innovations back to our customers and make the agencies innovate alongside, so not losing that innovation edge. Some of the most sophisticated natural language processing accuracy yields happened in the last 18 months. Image recognition happened over the last 5-6 years. How to bring both of them together in a no-code, almost easy way for agencies to take advantage of building world-class deep learning models without having to keep up with the changes happening underlying, and try to kind of almost give the ability for everyone to build world-class models in their specific data domain. And
I love it. AI for all.
AI for all. And transparency is at the heart of it. If we can explain and interpret AI, as we learned during the pandemic, that often the simplest interpretable models were far more easy to understand what was happening in the underlying data. And with that, we could even predict that the third wave, the fourth wave we've seen, and we could adapt, get our customers adapt. Fundamentally, I think of AI as it is reducing fear and uncertainty, right?
Sure.
And happiness, fear and uncertainty are the opposite of happiness. So we're in the purpose of delivering happiness by reducing fear, uncertainty, and what is doubt in our customers. And sure. AI is really at that crossroads where people have to begin to learn to trust it and create that human AI interloop exchange, which I think Ramesh was touching that earlier, so that you can actually trust AI where it is trustable and validate the trust, but validate it continuously, so that we can look at what are the blind spots for the AI and ensure we continue to learn from the feedback coming from the model, either doing very well or not doing well. All models are wrong. Some models are useful. So our mission is to give that explainability to the AI, so that we can essentially decode, and the hundreds of years of bias in the decisions won't go away overnight. So we need to go in and almost adversarially test the models so that they're safe, secure, and can yield more results.
Trust but verify. Trust but verify.
Trust but verify.
We're gonna roll down to this last question. We'd love to have all day, but unfortunately, we've got to button it up here and focus on the future. And John, I'm going to start with you at Aerospike. If you could paint a picture and predict, sort of anticipate what we can expect 2 to 3 years from now, what does it look like?
I think basically it's massive amounts of data being analyzed and used in real time to delight, if you will, the organization's constituency. This is almost a third generation of the internet. I mean, it started out, and today, if you think back just 10 years, it's sort of amazing. And I think that what's going to happen, and I think many of the panelists have touched on this, is a comfort with being able to use the data in ways that we've never been able to use before. We've got compute power, we've got broad access to data globally, it's ubiquitous. And the potential with that is staggering, whether it's in medicine, whether it's in business, whether it's in the Department of Defense, whether it's in the civil agencies in our government. I think the excitement that's here and the potential is unbounded. And I think it's one of the most exciting times in the information technology industry that I've ever seen.
Looking forward to it. I think we all are. Nick, if you could paint a picture, predict the future, but 2 or 3 years from now, I'm sure you all have some things in the Petri dish. What does it look like in 2 to 3 years?
Oh, look, what we're seeing is that data management and algorithm lifecycle sustainment will improve. The tool sets necessary to facilitate that at scale and really autonomously will certainly evolve and become mainstream, to the point where your infrastructure becomes boundaryless. It's really all about managing data in the data sphere, not about managing the compute service infrastructure. So that's a core focus for how we're implementing our software layers, data planes, and control layers on top of our systems. The second thing we see is that the scale of data, volume, velocity, variety, and veracity will increase, especially with the advent of 5G and 5G developed applications. The Internet of Things or machine generated data is going to actually explode beyond its current level in ways that we can't anticipate. But importantly, also the cost of the data service will decrease and the scale and performance of the technologies will increase due to the evolutions of obviously processors, protocols, buses, and the things that are simply inherent in the technology evolution lifecycle. So there will be more data, but it will be less expensive to use and it will be more efficient for us to manage.
Fantastic. Top lesson learned for you?
Well, what we've learned from our customers along the AI journey is that purpose-built infrastructures for AI are critical to shortening the time to effective algorithm development and deployment. Traditional systems were not designed for the scale of AI and machine learning compute applications. And AI and containerization create unprecedented scale challenges that truly have to be automated with tools designed for supporting the application and supporting the training and development of algorithms with immense quantities of data. So AI scale is hyperscale, to John's point. So very much driven by API-driven automated administration and operation. That's probably the key thing. What you've built your IT enterprise to function with in the past going to be efficient for this type of application and development going forward.
John, didn't catch you on the top lesson learned. Your top lesson learned.
Making it easy for adoption is everything. De-risking this new world that we have for IT organizations. It is new and you've got a lot of risk associated with large projects, and making it simple, if you will, dumbing it down and allowing organizations to iterate to get to the big success as opposed to sort of the big bang approach. And again, if you take the risk out of it, you shorten the window to opportunity, shorten the window to value. I think that's the journey that most organizations should be. And I think as vendors, we can enable that. And I think that's the risk. I think that's the opportunity.
Take the risk out, increase the integrity, and it's AI for all. I love it. Sri, we're talking about what's it going to look like. You've been at this for over a decade. You spoke about grandmasters over there. I understand you have 2 or 3 of them there. What do you see in a couple of years from now?
We have 10% of the world's grandmasters, 25 of them, just like chess, AI has grandmasters. What we've done is digitized how they're solving their problems, and then making it easily accessible to our customers. The big trends we're seeing is AI. AI is in the cloud. It has been eating software and started eating hardware, as we have a partnership with NVIDIA and other new generation architectures. But AI is heading to the edge, right? So how do we truly bring intelligence where care needs to be delivered or decisions need to be made? I think AI on the edge, 5G, as Nick was mentioning, we're seeing a lot of blockchain as well. So how do you decentralize and bring some validation to AI, validate the bits, sign the bits that are running on the edge? How do you kind of give it more veracity? How do you bring it more explainability and transparency? And I think the future is beautiful. Everything is going to be intelligent on things as they get more and more smarter. They can be more adaptive, more personalized. They can create environments that make for a very rich interaction between people. And finally, AI is going to reduce all the boring stuff away, right? Sort of all this document processing, all the video. We created a ton of video through Zooms like these. Over the last 2 years, how do you start adapting to video, audio, and large corpus of text, summarization of those use cases into simple, easy, understandable pieces for making decisions? I think that kind of piecing together, reducing the noise from the signal and starting to act on that, that's still a big problem for our customers. And enabling the customers to become AI first, AI superpowers. Our mission is to make every one of our customers an AI company or an AI agency, an AI organization.
An AI superpower. I love it. Ramesh, how about at DIA? When you focus over the next couple of years, where do you expect to be at that point?
A couple of things. Obviously, I'm continuing with the culture of innovation, growth mindset, so we can extract the value from our data and forge partnership with our allies and partners, especially our 5i partners, industry, academia, research labs, because no one can do things by themselves. I believe in outside in innovation model. So we want to accelerate the speed and scale of innovation, extract the value from our data. And there are some technical aspects like V&V, verification, validation, bias, fairness, explainability. So last year, I worked with the Deputy Secretary of Defense to create the responsible AI memo. We have a policy. How do we translate that non-functional requirements and how do we push it out into our RFPs and other things coming out, right? So the goal is to make sure we have next generation digital platform for intelligence advantage for decision superiority for the country.
That's an important goal, a lofty goal. You mentioned 5i, just for the listening audience. What is 5i?
Oh, that's the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and UK. They are our closest partners. If you look at our US partnership, it goes in circles of trust. So there is the NATO, there's 5i's, NATO, then there's other partners and allies, right? So we work very, very closely. In fact, our DDCI, Deputy Director for Commonwealth Integration, is an Australian general who sits in our headquarters in Washington, DC. So
Fantastic.
They work on par with us. I could go probably sit down in UK Ministry of Defense and have a role reporting to their general or someone like that. So there are a lot of cross-pollination that happens between these 5 countries, which is what 5i is.
Thank you for that definition on 5i. Gil, you're going to wrap us up here. Tell us what it's going to look like over the next couple of 3 years at Veterans Affairs.
Yeah, so I think, when you look toward the future, obviously it's hard to predict, but we're seeing a lot of interesting work, I think, in trustworthy artificial intelligence. A lot of people are, I've heard, are talking about AI first, and AI able or AI ready data. I think in the future, we're going to start to talk about it, think more about, trustworthy first, trustworthy ready data as sort of the foundation, because we need to start thinking about that trustworthy aspect of the use cases right at the very beginning, all the data, making sure that as you build the models, you have the right data, because it's much easier to build and design trustworthy aspects of artificial intelligence when you think about them at the beginning, rather than after the use case is developed and you're working on deploying it and patching it afterwards. So I think that's one aspect. When we think about artificial intelligence within government in general, I think it can help in reducing essentially our time tax on our employees, so they can accomplish more within the given same level of effort, as well as also it can help in improving customer service through increasing speed and accuracy while protecting the privacy as one of the top priorities. So it's worth repeating really that that the way AI, artificial intelligence, right, and machine learning can improve and do some of this is by improving the access to the information and making it readily available and scalable. And in doing so, I think it'll really fundamentally change the way we serve the veteran community and also enable and empower that workforce with high-end tools.
Well, we certainly do appreciate that, and we appreciate all the work and effort that everyone has been doing to keep this country safe and prosper. So I want to thank all of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to join us on this program. I'd also like to thank the sponsors for supporting us on this show. I'd like to thank the good people here at Federal News Network that make this program so successful and enjoyable. And most of all, I'd like to thank the listening audience that tune in every month. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.